is trying to bring more of a direct democracy to Austria by specific through his platform Österreich entscheidet, which he has raised the funds for, and he's gaining support for in Austria. That's going live very soon with ads and the media campaign. Everyone talks about participation, but there's very little substance in the party programs of the Austrian elections. Why are you doing what you're doing, and what exactly is it you want politicians to do? We've got 10 minutes as well.
To start with, just ask you the question, if you're going to vote, yeah? Some even don't go to vote anymore, but if you're going to vote, do you vote with happiness and thinking that's a good thing where I put my cross on? See? And that is probably something that we all feel, that we are living in a system where we have to decide once every 5 years, 4 years, for a political party that has a certain program. And probably we agree with a lot of them, but not with all of them. And it was something that was important earlier days when my ancestors from Tyrol had to go to Vienna to represent the wishes of the Tyrolean people. And that's why we have a representative democracy. And it was also made to make somehow a stable democracy. That they have people that represent interests, and there cannot be happening something just out of emotions or something like that. But what we now see, and that's the reason why I'm going into that, and I'm tried already one approach I will tell you, is that we are now in a system that doesn't produce any meaningful results for a lot of people. We have a lot of inequality, we have a lot of issues that are not addressed, and the people somehow either don't see the problems, really, or they cannot tackle them, although the solutions are manifold in some drawers. And that is something that we all feel. And nowadays we see the representative democracy is not a stabilizing factor anymore. It's more or less random. Some events in US, and we would have Sanders as a president. Some events in France, and we would have someone else as president. That means it's more or less random, and all the people that try to protect democracy from the will of the people have the danger that they protect something to a point that there is a tipping point, and then exactly the people that don't want to have in power are in power for 4 or 5 years. And that's something that is concerning me since a long time. And as an entrepreneur, I did a lot of things also in our company. I have founded a company, and we are a democratic company. That means in our company, all the employees vote for the CEO and for all the leaders. Even this sale of our company was decided by everyone. That means the intern who was since 3 weeks in the company had one vote, as I myself had one vote as co-founder, CEO and major shareholder. Because what I understood and what I've seen is that if we bring together all the knowledge of all the people, then we will come to better decisions than just by a few people. We have to be very aware. It's not the experts and the people that know everything versus the majority that is stupid. The decision is only the experts, or the experts plus all the other people. Because when we're talking about participation, there is not a democracy without leaders. Every democracy needs leaders. Democracy is not leaderless. It's not, okay, now you decide, you make up your mind and you decide. In every decision that is participatory, there are always people that are for one direction, and there are always people being for another direction. And you, as we all, we can then decide not only once every 5 years whom we want to follow and whom we want to give our vote. But for example, if there's a topic about in the environment, then we listen to the experts, and then we follow and give one expert our vote that we think is good for us. Yeah? And that means we don't have to give our vote for 5 years away, and people do whatever they want with it. But in the important things, we can decide. And that is something that I've learned the hard way, that participation only works if there's really a sharing of power. If we only do facultative participation, then Brexit happens. Because what happens is that the people in the middle say, well, nothing happens, I can stay at home, I don't have to vote. And then only special interest groups that can highly energize their constituencies, they go vote. And then the result is something that is not representing the majority, because it's just representative. It's just facultative. Yeah, we ask people, what do you think? And then some people get more energized and others not. And the moment we learn how to use participation, and that my vote, the result of the vote really counts, makes a result, then I have learned that my vote counts, and then I will go to vote. And I'm sure if we would have done the Brexit referendum one day after the first referendum, with no additional information, the result would have been different. Because people would have learned, wow, that is something I have to go vote. Yeah? And even in the US, there were riots after Trump's vote, and the people got violent and were arrested, and then a journalist checked the identities of the arrested with the voter registry. And 90% of the people that were on the street violently didn't vote. That means, when we're talking about innovation, I personally think the most important part is that we have the power to decide. That we are not asked and we have to back the politicians to do something, or that we have to put the pressure on the politicians to do something, but that we have the right. And therefore what we are doing with Österreich entscheidet, Austria decide, is we want to build up the pressure to introduce the most important tool that we have is right. We call it verbindlicher Volksentscheid, in English binding people decision or binding people vote. That means we want that if 10% of the population says we want to vote on something, then there has to be a binding vote. The government has 1 year to decide, do we want to make a counter proposal? Do we want to implement this proposal already without any, or do we go into the decision making and say we are against it? After this 1 year, we have 1 year of opinion making. That means there will be people discussing about it. There will be experts saying, I'm for that, I'm against it. And with that, every person in the room can decide, and in the country can decide on these things. And what is important that we start a learning journey, because you know this instrument exists in Switzerland. And if you look at how Switzerland is governed, it's much more closer to the people. People don't let politicians just go in their clouds and not look at what's going on. But of course, I often hear, well, but Switzerland is a different story. I'm now living since 20 years in Switzerland. I was living 20 years in Austria. I'm sure I can tell the Swiss people are not more intelligent or more responsible than the Austrians. I'm sure about that. The only thing is you have to learn it. And therefore, our implementation program is to say, first we decide on communities and countries. That means in Tyrol or in Wales or wherever, to decide on certain things like how you want to do the budget, do you want to have environmental things and so on. You learn that really your vote has an impact. And then the next phase is on the federal level, and then the next phase is on the international level. And I think that if we have such an instrument, we can save democracy. Because if we don't have real participation, at the end, representative democracy will at certain points get to a tipping point, and then we will have people in power that we all don't want.
Wonderful, you were perfectly in time.